Oh, Dave, can you allow screen sharing, please? Hi, this is Lori Fry, and I'm with the 501st Legion and with Rebel Legion, who is sponsoring this panel today. We've got some wonderful guests for you. Our panel is more than just a few beyond main characters. And it's to sponsor the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We've got some links here to give you information on how to donate. You can donate through Tiltify, or there's a donation link at infernocon.com, charity.html, or if you look at the screen, either on Facebook Live, Twitch, or YouTube, there's a QR code at the side of the screen during each panel where you can make a donation. I am Lori Fry. These are the costumes that I wear, all minor characters who you don't get a lot of screen time for. But we've got some actors here joining us today who have more significant screen time in all of the movies. And let's introduce them now. First off, we have Dietrich Gray, who played a Muspelgo villager in The Mandalorian. Our second guest is Paulie Lee, who played Captain Carson Teva in 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. And also joining us is Dominic Pace, who played Gecko in 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. Let me just turn off the screen sharing. For the purposes of our panel today, the main characters of Star Wars, all of the leads, don't exist. We're going to focus deeper into the background of the Star Wars universe to take a closer look at the multitude of aliens, villagers, and scoundrels who take the artificial sets of the movies and bring them to life. The first question I'd like to have our panelists talk about today is, who is your favorite minor character in the Star Wars universe? And what importance do minor characters have in the Star Wars universe for you? Paul, would you like to start out?
Sure. I guess, I'm just gonna go OG with it. And my first favorite minor character is Wedge Antilles, honestly, right? Like what rebel pilot who survived all 3 major space battles, like Battle of Yavin, Battle of Hoth, and the Battle of Endor. Played a significant role in each of the movies in terms of a background player. Always being there, and I think a great background player always supports the main characters there. And there's a rich history. I remember collecting the comic books and reading about what happened to Wedge after the Battle of Hoth. It was a great sort of 1 episode issue arc where it was just like he was left behind on Hoth and actually had to survive in Echo Base by himself for a period of time. I think there was another pilot that he was stranded there with who was injured, and he was trying to nurse him back to health, but ended up passing away. But that was my first sort of instance as a kid growing up and seeing that there was life behind the main characters, and I really, really enjoyed the richness of that in terms of universe and world building. I find that fascinating and infinitely more enjoyable too, because often these stories existed in the expanded universe or in between the movies and whatnot, and so getting that content from novels and from comics and from fan fiction was a really great way of sort of satisfying that itch of wanting a little bit more Star Wars content. I really enjoyed that. I
remember that Wedge had a particular life off screen after Empire came out and Yoda said, "There is another." I recall a lot of fans were speculating that Wedge might have been the other who they were talking about.
Oh, really? Yeah. I guess I must have got caught off guard when it was Leia. Right?
Yeah, like, there was a lot of surprised people because there were a lot of theories.
That's right.
So Dominic, what would you like to talk about? Which characters are your favorites?
Well, I think ironically, I think we'd have to look at Boba as well, because when you initially saw him, Empire Strikes Back, it was only about, 5 minutes or so. Aside from that, would be Gamorrean Guards. I remember, that sort of being the first hefty action figure with the axe I thought was so unique as a kid. But I think the reason we're talking about this and the reason we have this panel is really in particular, I think specifically associated with just Lucas's team in terms of the attention to detail. We talked previously before this morning, just in regards to sometimes sci-fi films before Star Wars, especially the side characters, they used to just kind of throw them together. But really, because of the attention to detail to every little side character, it makes you, just like what Paul's saying, makes you want to kind of know a little bit more about them. You know, I probably had about maybe 5-10 seconds screen time between both episodes, and they spent 2 hours on me every morning. Emmy Award winning Joseph Porro and Brian Sipe, they did just an amazing job. But it really is that attention to detail that started with Lucas's team and now pours over to Favreau and Filoni, which makes you, again, want to know so much more about them and their history because of the time that they spent on each one there.
Dietrich, who's your favorite character who's lurking in the background?
Well, I love all the guys that you mentioned. Of course, Boba, and I remember, I think the first movie I remember going to see in the theater with my dad as a kid was Jedi, Return of the, and I remember really liking Jabba. I mean, he's this like awful, like disgusting, like, you know, bulbous, like oligarch of a, you know, corrupt, disgusting, womanizing jerk. But there's something about, you don't play, in Shakespeare we say, you don't play the king, everyone around you plays to the king. And I think, you know, Jabba exhibits that. And on the other side of the spectrum, I always loved Lando Calrissian, such a smooth operator. Oh my gosh, here he is. He's so smooth and fluffy, like on his cloud city. And then to take such a like Judacian, you know, the turn of a betrayer on our heroes, that was so unexpected. What a great plot twist and what a great character arc. So I love the smaller characters. Haha.
It was fantastic in Solo when they showed in Lando's ship his closet, and he had just the row of capes hanging up. It was beautiful.
I want that closet.
I would take a copy of that myself. Everything in my size, it would be glorious. So, Paulie, in terms of the minor characters, not minor characters, but the characters in the background, what do you think about? Sorry, losing my thread here. Let's take another tack. If there was one of the background characters in Star Wars who you could hang out with at a bar, who would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, that group of bounty hunters in Empire Strikes Back, you know, you got Dengar, IG-88, Bosk, and Boba. We'll include Boba in that. Would be an interesting source just to listen to some of the stories of the different marks they've had to bring in, the different bounties. There's an inside joke that a group of friends and I have about the Boba Fett in the original trilogy, because, you know, we theorize and we just and teasingly so that the reason everybody loved him was because of the helmet and the armor. Like, he looked cool, but in fact, he was kind of one of the lamest characters because he got taken out so easily. Like what did he really do to catch Han Solo? He followed him in a pile of garbage. He called in the Empire. He let the Empire do all the dirty work, and he collected the reward. And at the end, he got thrown into the Sarlacc pit. So he wasn't really sort of made into a real badass until Mandalorian came in and Robert Rodriguez taken. And that was the Boba Fett everybody hoped he was, you know, he was going to be and stuff. And so we like to tease some of our friends in the Mandalorian mercs who like totally love Boba Fett and stuff like that. But it would be really interesting, I think, with that group of rogues to hear about, you know, their origin stories, how they became mercenaries and bounty hunters, and what are some of the marks they had to take down. I think that would be a really, really sort of interesting evening. And in barring that, I'd love to hang out with R5D4 to find out, really, because there's that fan theory that he is the true hero of the rebellion because he took a hit so that R2 could complete his mission. So I'd love to get to the bottom of that story myself.
Dietrich, what about you? Who would be your drinking buddy for A Night on the Town.
You know, just touched on it, I'm going to stick with Lando now that I've kind of opened up that can of worms, because the more I think about it, this stylish, kind of elegant gentleman. I mean, I'm one who likes to, put on a tie and a vest and a pocket square and hit the town and, twirl a lady around the dance floor. And I think Lando could teach me a thing or two about elegance. And I can imagine, some like martini and caviar bar in the penthouse of some fancy, building. Yeah, I'm going to stick with him. I think that'd be an interesting evening on the town for sure.
It would. How about you, Dominic?
Well, one thing I wanted to just point out was, when I was 5 or 4 years old, with these background characters, part of the significance also translates over to the toys, where the colors, when you're 4 and 5 years old, sort of pop out at you. And two in particular, back in 1979, 1980, for me, the first original 12, were both Hammerhead and Walrus Man. I remember just reading or watching a review on YouTube where I guess a lot of fans were upset because Walrus Man doesn't really mirror, his sort of his orange, bright orange, I don't know, what it was, like a unitard there. It doesn't mirror obviously what he looked like on screen, but as a 5-year-old kid, both, and then you can add Greedo to that as well. But Hammerhead with the turquoise bikini, right? And then you got Walrus Man with the bright orange. So as a 4 and 5-year-old, that really popped out at me. So they're obviously the OG Cantina characters. You can imagine how much of a dream it was for me to be one of those guys in Mandalorian. But I would say those two guys in particular would be pretty awesome to hang out with, just because, again, I think they symbolize sort of the base of how side characters and background characters became so important in the Star Wars universe.
Dietrich, what is the character who you find most intimidating, other than a lead character?
Who? Now, I know with a Jedi mind trick, he was able to be sort of inoculated and moved out of the way. But it's one of Jabba's henchmen, and he sort of answers the door, and he has those sort of skin growth dreadlocks.
Yeah, Bib Fortuna.
Yeah.
Okay, that as being first introduced to that character as a child, I thought, I don't know, there's something about his eyes and his mannerisms that reminds me. I don't know if you all saw the film Dudley Moore, Goldie Hawn, Chevy Chase. Is it Foul Play? And she is hiding from an albino man that's chasing her, and everyone's after the microfiche, right? Sorry to get out of the Star Wars universe for a second, but that feels like right at the similar time for me, and at a similar young age. And these two actors, these two men, really kind of fit into the same file for me of fear and terror. And so, yeah, intimidating. I don't want to run into that guy in a dark alley, not unless I've got my Jedi mind tricks at my disposal, I guess.
Dominic, who would you not want to meet in a dark alley?
Recently, and I think it was just the anniversary a couple of days ago, and one of my favorite characters on the outside from Rogue One. I'm 6'4". I love these Death Troopers. They look so amazing. I heard it cost an arm and a leg to do it as a kit for 501st, but if I ever do anything other than Gecko, I would love to do a Death Trooper, just because, of course, the original Stormtroopers, I think they were 5'8" or 5'9" in terms of their height. But the Death Troopers, I thought that was a really cool touch. They were all like slender and 6'4", with a really, really awesome blaster. I actually have a Hallmark ornament. It doesn't make for a great ornament, but they're so awesome looking and intimidating. I would say the Death Trooper there from Rogue One.
Paul, who's your nightmare character in the background?
That's a great question. There's 3, all different sort of variations. The first would be a Wookiee, and I think they look all cute and cuddly, and you're like, oh, it'd be nice. But if you get on the wrong side of a Wookiee, I don't fancy getting my arms pulled out of the sockets for innocuous things like winning a game. So that's one. The other one on the other extreme would be Grand Moff Tarkin, because he's cold, ice cold. Anyone who could just so callously order the destruction of an entire planet without blinking an eye is someone to be feared, I believe, just because there's zero compassion. There's that ice cold sort of willingness to just sacrifice millions to make a point. And then the other one would be close to this universe, the heavy infantry Mandalorian, just because he's armored up and he's gigantic, right? I mean, Dominic was speaking about the sheer size of somebody beside a Wookiee. Imagine somebody as tall as a Wookiee, but fully armored up and with the repeating blaster and the willingness to use it. So those would be my top three. I'd rather avoid in a dark alleyway.
Dominic, let's take a different tack on this. Who would win your comedy award for the characters?
Oh, wow. Well, my dear friend Mark Dotson with Salacious Crumb. How can you go wrong with that? I mean, they literally called him in straight out of, well, actually, he did the Gremlins right after it there. But, I mean, just, there he is.
He's a close friend of mine also.
He's a great guy, and so many great stories we shared. We did a little appearance together down in Dallas there when I started the campaign. But, yeah, you can't go wrong with Salacious Crumb. And how much fun it was that Lucas was able to incorporate some of that childlike, fun comedy there with Return of the Jedi. I enjoyed it. I especially at 9 years old, I thought it was a great addition to Star Wars there. So Salacious Crumb, without question.
Paulie, who's your favorite comedic character?
K2SO, hands down.
Yes.
Just, a droid with a bit of a mean streak to him. And you know what they say, there's comedy in truth, and he drops a lot of truth bombs.
Yes.
And his timing is impeccable. So that's my vote.
Yeah.
Dietrich, who's your comedic favorite?
I'm gonna go way back again to my early experiences with the universe. And we're thinking about minor characters because, of course, I think in terms of comedic performance, just in terms of mastery and with handling the writing, of course, Harrison Ford, I think, takes the cake in terms of his ability to be this heartthrob hero, action motivated, but also handle a joke and be able to throw it away or really jab someone. But when we think about the lesser characters, I don't want to forget about the Ewoks. I know there's some different schools of thought on the fortitude or prowess or necessity perhaps of these lovable little furry creatures, or were they a ploy for merchandise sales? But as a kid, I will say that was like one of my favorite, funniest, cuddliest, comedic filled experiences with the universe was with the Ewoks and their antics.
The scene where they had Han and Luke ready for the barbecue was
oh my gosh, yeah.
All right. I'd like to find out what plans you have coming up in your career coming up soon in the future. I know, Dominic, you've got some travel plans.
Yeah. You mean as far as with work, or as far as with Star Wars there?
As far as with Star Wars and work, everything's open for this discussion.
Sure, absolutely. There's a new Disney Plus movie called Chang Can Dunk. I have a really nice supporting role on that coming up. And also a really cool featured bit with Chi McBride. There's a new show for CBS based on a true story. It's a gentleman, but his last name was Smallwood. And he was a beer league bowler that was bowling 250, 260, ended up going pro. So really fun story with that. And play one of the bowlers, Swade Wade. Should be a lot of fun. Just finished with Fred Armisen this week on a show called This Fool, guest starring Michael Imperioli. So we're looking forward to that. And then also another movie with Jason Patrick called Bonded, which is coming out. And then we film in Miami, a film called Deceived that starts in late March. As far as with Star Wars, very excited to announce in a couple of months, hopefully, in a month, hopefully it'll be official. But Gecko's first appearance on an official licensed piece from Lucasfilm. I'm going to parlay that into paying it forward to the 501st Legion Mandalorian Mercs, visiting 9 major cities, just as a way of saying thank you, and working on charitable causes that are close to their heart in their local communities. They came out with so much support for me over the last couple of years. This license piece revolves around celebration, so we're going to transition it into a theme that is basically similar to the license piece. And that's going to be around June and July. And then Daniel Logan is helping me take that piece public with his store, Bounty Boxes, in March, April. So really excited that those funds are going to go towards my son's college. I can't thank the Star Wars universe enough. Filoni and Favreau, who let me push the envelope with this, extremely grateful to them. And yeah, really looking forward to that. And hopefully, who knows, maybe you'll see more Gecko in the future there with all the new shows coming out.
Paulie, what are your upcoming jobs?
I'm actually just came back from LA from shooting something. I don't think I'm allowed to say what I was shooting, so there's that. I'm in January. I think the news was announced that I'm joining the main cast of Avatar: The Last Airbender as Uncle Iroh. So I'm going to be shooting that for the next 5 months or so in Vancouver. So I'm going to be living in Vancouver on the West Coast there for a little bit. And in the meantime, a number of things that I shot last year are premiering in January. I'm going to be on an episode of, a few episodes of Tall Boys. That's a sketch comedy show up here in Canada on CBC Gem. You can watch that up here. Playing with the Tall Boys as well on Family Feud Canada, the celebrity week that they have going on there. We're raising money for charity. And in the meantime, while I'm out in Vancouver shooting Avatar, I've got my YouTube channel that's up and running, Bitter Asian Dude Inc. Every Sunday, I do Fun Boxing Sundays where I open up some collectibles, do a half-ass review, and we chat. And so join us for that, because I especially love the 1/6 scale figures, the hot toys, and other collectibles that I can find out and about, either online or in the greater Vancouver area. So yeah, that's what I got my plate for the next few months or so.
Do you have any upcoming Star Wars events coming up?
Yeah, I do. I don't know how much I want to talk about any of this stuff, honestly. And so it's the whole, I think at the end of the day, it's better to just sort of err on the side of caution, but
yes.
Keep your eyes open, because I think there's going to be a few announcements going on fairly soon.
Lovely. And Dietrich, what's coming up for you?
Let's see, there's a lot of things that are in the hopper about, let's see, just recently my track on Lucifer was just released, so folks can check that out. In the can, I have a series for HBO. We're just starting to see the trailers come out about the 1980s Los Angeles Lakers. So Magic and Kareem, you can catch me in there. I have another HBO thing that I also can't talk about, but look for something in a vintage courtroom, shall we say, and then I'm very, very excited about my time with Ana de Armas on the Marilyn Monroe film Blonde, which is due out in the spring. So be looking for that. Very excited. Oh, and the other thing I'll say is my actual death as Mos Pello villager on Tatooine in the cantina, it never made it to air. So
congratulations.
There's still there's some flexibility. Anyway, congrats you guys on all the work that you've got coming up. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back to characters. If there were two of the characters who you could, as I say now, ship, who you could see them dating, who would those two characters be? Paulie?
L3 and K2SO, because if those two could create another droid form, that would be the sassiest droid in all of Star Wars history. And I think if they could get some Chopper in there, man, oh man, that would be a heck of a series to watch. Wow, that's a great question. That totally caught me off guard, and that was like a total gut response.
That was a good one.
Good one, Lori. Thank you so much.
Dominic.
Maul and Ventress. I'll up the ante here and just go with evil as opposed to the droid sassiness.
Nice.
That would be a scary combination indeed.
Yeah.
Dietrich.
Ooh. I may maybe gosh, I like all the can I just be inspired by the other guys?
Sure.
I like the idea of droid relationships. That's hysterical, Paulie. That's great. Let's go down that road. Love.
So which two droids would your dating service put together?
Well, forgive me if I'm at a loss for some of the names. I'm not as well versed in the universe as you guys, so I'll rely on your help. But perhaps there's one in Mandalorian actually who has these kind of long arms, who's like almost a protector, almost like a nanny or a manny.
IG-99, right? Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
Oh, 11, yes.
And who's our guy from some of the recent films who rides along kind of on a hovering ball?
BB-8.
BB-8.
Yeah. What are those two doing, and why aren't they together?
That would be interesting in terms of mechanics to get the two.
Yeah. Well,
motion
opposites
into one.
attract, don't they? Yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's get a little more action into the game here in a different sense. Dominic, if there were two characters who you could see in a battle who haven't been in one before, who would you pick?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm excited. I've been hearing some rumors. It'd be so cool to see Fett, and I don't know if they can sort of morph Solo into what they did with Hamill for the end of season 2. But there it is right there. I mean, it's almost like Javert and Valjean, right? Maybe they sing a little song as they circle each other in a room. I'm excited. I think it's going to happen. I think these jaws are going to drop if that thing goes down. But there you are right there. That's Star Wars for every generation right there.
Paulie, what's your dream battle?
Oh, man. That's a great question, Lori. I'm going to pull my own character into this. I'd love to see Carson Teva take on Migs Mayfeld, because you got two grizzled veterans of the intergalactic civil unrest of the, one on the Empire, that one on the Rebellion, Battle of the Baldies, two old guys duking it out for all it's worth. I think that'd be a really sort of fun OG, old-fashioned sort of smackdown where they both just kick the crap out of each other.
Although I could almost see you guys ending up in a Casablanca ending, walking off the sunset.
I think absolutely. They become, like best of friends afterwards, and like, no, here's the lines, and we're always going to be friends, but we're always going to be on these other sides. So I think that's pretty cool. I love that. The beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Exactly. Dietrich, who's your battle?
Who's the abominable snowman, the Yeti on Hoth?
Wampa.
Okay, and how about Chewie and Wampa?
Oh,
That would be good. Very furry.
Yeah, they could date as well. They could just, that could end up in a sunset situation, a chilly sunset.
I would hope they would pick to stay at Chewie's place, because I think the Wampas would be a little inhospitable.
Yeah.
All right, what else can we do to mix and mingle our characters? Any ideas you would like to discuss?
As far as intermingling characters, wow.
We've had fights, we've had dates. Who would get along the worst on a desert island? How about that? Who would be the nightmare pair to have to deal with each other long term?
Well, you've got the traditional. Excited for to see if that plays out. Anything with Maul and Obi-Wan in the new Kenobi series, that'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't do too well on an island for sure.
Dietrich.
Well, that's why we're gonna love that so much, is that they don't belong together. Wow. Speaking of Javert and Valjean, holy cow. The two that don't belong. I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, do we really think that Han and Leia would live happily ever after? I mean, relationships are tough, even though we're like rooting for them to, get it together. It's like, there. I'd like to see the cut to 11 years later. What are the petty arguments about?
Yeah.
She never fills the ice trays.
That's always the irony of two alphas in a relationship. Is better off separate sometimes. But yeah, absolutely, both very strong characters.
Been there, done that one.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother's been single for quite some time, but what a compliment to her. She it's just her way or the highway. Not so much good for a relationship, but definitely Leia and Han both were alphas to a T there.
And Paulie, who do you think would just drive each other nuts hanging out for a long time?
Well, I'm kind of curious about the dynamic between Yaddle and Yoda. The two of them, because like Yaddle suddenly disappears, and then 50 years later you get Grogu. So it's like a little bit of that. Where did Baby Yoda come from again? Like, how is it? Like, we've only seen 3 ever of that species, which has still been unidentified. You see a bit of Yaddle in the Jedi Council in the prequel trilogy, and then she disappears, and then there's Yoda. Now, Grogu is supposed to be around. I think the backstory is he was part of the Jedi Temple, and he was smuggled out just before Order 66 was executed. These are deep cuts, Dietrich. So I'm going deep nerd dive on Baby Yoda here.
I'm taking notes.
And so, but I mean, there's a lot of fun speculation with the fans. Like, yeah, wonder where Yaddle went and why, did she take baby Grogu with her type thing? Like, was that little couple that was, this is sheer speculation and just fun on my part, but I think that would be interesting. It's like, the two of them having an argument with each other. Away, put your weapon. It's like, no, the back and forth between the two of them. The child I am taking. Oh, think you're smarter than me? Can you imagine them arguing with each other? That would be like insane.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where can we take our little characters now? Buddy movie. Who would you pick for two of the characters to be in a buddy movie together? The unlikely partnership who works out.
Well, I'll take this and run with it because the fans have been speculating with it ever since they saw that episode of Mandalorian with Trapper Wolf and Carson Teva. And like, I kind of love the idea of it's like, intergalactic chips. It's the two of them just flying around, getting into it, like solving mysteries, getting into adventures, and like the silly things where it's just like, it's like a buddy cop movie with the two of them, and they get on each other's nerves, but they work well together type thing. So I'm gonna go cheap and quick with that one. And just because I know Filoni, as much as he complains about being on camera, I think secretly he does enjoy it, because he gets to design his own little doodads and his helmet and get the little nods to the Pittsburgh Penguins in everything that he does, which is great. It would be, I think that'd just be a lot of fun, if anything, just to hear Filoni complain about stuff, which is a lot of fun, actually. So
I'd watch that show.
Yeah.
Dietrich, how about you? Your buddy movie combination.
I'm gonna go to my character. So how about Mos Pelgo Villager, who is this community organizer in a mining community, upstanding citizen, one of the guys, and that Tusken Raider who the mining community and the Raiders are mortal enemies, and they don't trust each other. And particularly, I run into trouble with this particular one, and thinking he's going to blow the whole place up. And what are we going to do then? And let's put them in an old Cadillac convertible and send them out on Route 66 and see how that goes. Yeah.
Dominic, who's in the cast for your buddy movie?
Well, I mean, when you say that, it's hard not to think of getting the band back together as opposed to just two, especially with Book of Boba just coming out very soon. I think the fans are just going to go wild. I don't know what, Filoni has planned and all the directors, but to get the band back together of the OG 6 bounty hunters and to have that slow hero walk, of Bosk, Boba, IG-88, Dengar, who, by the way, I think Vinnie Jones would be an amazing Dengar. The original Dengar was played by a middleweight English boxer, so I think Vinnie Jones would be a perfect pick for that. Just stocky and brawny and British. And, of course, Forlom and Zuckus to get all of them back together and sort of rule this new sort of level of authority over on Tatooine there.
It's like an Ocean's 6 kind of.
Yes.
That's
yes.
great.
I mean, please. But, again, it's always that battle with the writers to start new content, et cetera. And you of course you support that, but it just would be so amazing to see them all fleshed out because they became iconic for literally less than, 1 minute on screen. But over the last 40 years, they have become so legendary, So how awesome would that be to go back and watch Empire and then hear so much about the depth as to why the 6 of them were picked, And throw Gecko in there too. Why not? Please.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. You're casting the Star Wars version of Hamilton. Who are your musical performers from the background?
Oh, Jesus.
Especially if it's one who doesn't sing in the movie. Bonus points for that.
Oh, man. Yeah, because automatically you think of Cy Snoodles.
Exactly.
She was amazing. And then, of course, the 4-piece alien band there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I'm not sure. That was beautiful with the Fifth Element, with that one aria.
Yeah.
That was just absolutely gorgeous. It's hard not to think of that. But Hamilton itself is such a unique style of art and music. It's not necessarily, the normal Broadway show tunes that you would think. I don't know. Let me see. Oh, boy. Well, Akbar has a low baritone sort of bass to him, right?
He does.
So I think
And if there's a trap to be found, he's going to find it.
Yeah. Oh, God. You're throwing some hard ones.
Killer question, Lori.
Thank you.
I haven't seen Hamilton.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I think I'm like the only person in North America who hasn't seen Hamilton.
Just substitute any musical.
Yeah,
I know there's a new West Side Story out now, or whatever your favorite is.
Right.
Yeah.
Chicago would be a fun.
Oh, that's good because it's 2 gangs, right? So you could have the Rebel Alliance and the Empire in West Side Story.
Yeah.
I could see Kylo Ren having a secret desire to have a musical career. There's just something about his melodrama.
Sure, yeah. I was just reading some of the history books there. It turns out they both were not great people. Hamilton sort of, they make him out to be sort of the hero and such, but they were both talking a lot of trash, in terms of, whether through the Congress or just in the media and such. We always think that's a recent thing as far as tabloids, but that's why they went to a duel, because a lot of their own little spats and the stuff they were putting in the press,
Yeah.
Yeah, very good musical. I just enjoyed In the Heights there as well, which was great. They had one of the lead actor. He was featured in that. It's a great little tribute, being from New York, to the Puerto Rican culture there. I thought it was a beautiful little poem to them and all the immigrants. What they've had to go through. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now there are a lot of characters you could choose if you're doing a version of Cats, I suppose.
Yeah.
The Wookiees and the Ewoks. Lots of different characters
Yeah.
to choose from.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a little better than the Cats release there.
Or the Star Wars holiday special.
Yes, yes. Oh my God. You know what they were thinking. Let's see.
Paulie, any characters you could see in the music? I see you laughing there. What's going on?
They're great because it's just like that, trying to find a right mashup that
Yes.
works is just sort of like, oh, like you really have to know the source material, right? So like if you're gonna do if you're gonna do a good job with it, like if you're gonna do a musical, for example, it's good if you know the musical, if you're intimately aware of it, right? And so, you know, I will admit that musicals are kind of a blind spot for me in terms of that. I mean, the last musical I went and saw was a couple of years ago. I brought my wife to it. It was Dear Evan Hansen.
Mhm.
And so if you to do that, that would be really interesting if you had Kylo Ren as Evan Hansen, who's just like trying to fit in and just couldn't, and you know, pretends to be friends with Ray's one of Ray's friends who, you know, is gone, and this that would be really sort of interesting, in him sort of glomming on to try to be who he isn't to like Snoke, who is the kind of like the other family version. It's really weird how like the layers upon layers kind of get mixed in there, and you know, trying to get the character traits of an imaginary person to fit in with another character that's in an imaginary musical is like really, really sort of meta deep dive into both worlds, I
Yeah.
think. And it poses a really fascinating sort of questions, because you really need to know, or it'd be better if you knew, you know, more in depth what made these characters tick, and what would make it just sort of like, so when fans look at it and go, oh right, of course, that's great. And that shows a lot of you really, really, these are deep questions, I think, that you really need the time to sort of like, and I'm taking this a little bit too seriously now. I'm sort of like, oh, well, what would work if I'm going to be doing that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no off the cuff answer for you. It's just, for me, it's like, oh, I think I need a little bit of time
Yeah.
to do this. And I'll submit that afterwards to you. And you can see if you like it or not.
Okay, here's a real meta question. Of course, you know, Grand Admiral Thrawn analyzes art of other alien cultures in order to determine the best way to fight them, and what the best battle tactics are to use against them. If you were looking at artwork, what characters do you think might have some interesting artwork lurking in their background that might give you some insight?
I was so grateful, you know, when I did this little tour, and obviously, you know, with the small amount of screen time that Gecko had, to sort of flesh him out. So it's not so much intricate art, but I was just really fascinated with the fan base in regards to how much detail they brought to me, you know, sort of promoting the character and such, in terms of a little bit of a backstory and such, just like, you know, Paul was mentioning with some of his favorite characters as well. But just such a compliment to the fan base when you follow a lot of these pages on Instagram and Facebook, of just how many of the fans sort of motivate the detail of the backstory of a lot of these characters that they really admire. So I was just really genuinely impressed overall with a lot of the fans in regards to creating this sort of depth and detail and such to so many. You know, obviously, particularly it was personal for me because it was my own character there, and sort of speculating, you know, what type of ship he would have and what the blaster would do for being significantly larger than some of the others. Yeah, it's just amazing in terms of the creativity and the artwork, and how they sort of incorporate that with production and the production designers, you know, how much unique detail they do, especially through art there. So.
Dietrich, what are your thoughts?
And regarding art that would be in the background, like that the character creators have sketched around these folks,
That the characters themselves would have,
or collect, or
make,
create.
whichever. Yes.
Oh. Well, I'm going to go back to Lando. Don't you think that person has a fine eye for the greater things in life? I feel like that guy has got an understanding on. He's just got a philosophy of an air of just the finer things. And so I would imagine his collection, and I imagine even the furniture is like high design and ergonomically sound, and it thinks I imagine like a German car, like it anticipates your every need, this chair, this, and perhaps the art. I'm sure it's not only about affecting one's mood, but also I'm sure he made great investments in said art. And so just an all around, it turns out I must have like a crush on Lando Calrissian, I guess. I've got a secret man crush on. But anyway, yeah, I think a glimpse into his creative life does tell us something about furthermore about him, which is great.
Paulie, whose art collection would you like to check out?
It's interesting because it's when you mentioned Thrawn, he studies like the species, sort of the artists of that species. It's not the individual person of it, right? So if he's going to be fighting against, for example, Admiral Akbar, he doesn't sort of go, well, this is what Akbar has in his collection. This is like, he would go, this is the Mon Calamar, sort of, this is their art form and their history of art and stuff like that, which is great. So initially I was thinking, oh my God, like who would collect art, first of all? And I think Dietrich, you hit it right on the nose. That Lando, if anybody's going to collect art, it'll be Lando. A lot of it probably for profit, though. But I'm sure he would have a couple of really favorite pieces that he sort of keeps to himself. I know in Rebels, Sabine, in terms of her art form, because you see her character is very, very artistic in the family, and you see that it is something that runs, that her father, he's an artist. He's not a warrior. Her father's an artist. And he sort of chastises her for not keeping up with her art. And she does spray paints, and you see all the designs and the painting that she does. And I think, at least to my recollection, that's sort of the only character that I can think of that openly does do art in universe. And so I would love to see Sabine Wren's her work, her collection of work, and throughout the different artists have different phases in their lives and in their careers. I would love to see that, like Sabine at a younger age, and the progression and the maturation of her style and her form, and to see how at different points of her life, those events influenced her art. I think that would be really, really cool, whether she had a dark phase or a light phase or an abstract phase or a hyper realistic phase and whatnot. I think that'd be a lot of fun to look at. So yeah, my money would be on Sabine. That, and like her helmet design, her armor, the colors that she picks for her armor, they're so individual and yet just so beautifully done. I think that for me would be really compelling.
Speaking of artwork, though, in general, you mentioned Cloud City there in Lando. Now with the new technology, especially with the LED screen, I would love, and I'm hoping maybe we see a little bit more of that as the series progress now into the 5 new shows, et cetera. Now that we have this sort of advanced technology, we had, sort of those matte paintings back in 1979, 1980. But that'd be really beautiful to see and to explore Cloud City a little bit more, just because of that beautiful sort of heavenly-like art that Lucas built the foundation on there.
Yeah, Cloud City was one of the places I always wanted to see more detail about, because it's just so luminous.
Yes.
I wanted to know what Wilro Hood was running with. Like,
yes,
he's got that Camtano. That's somebody I'd like to go, where are you going with that? And what's in that? Right?
I posted on something on Twitter, because and this man, I mean, it was, my God, from the appearances and everything else. But I don't know with the call sheet with secondary characters back then, if they had anything really documented. But no one in the Twitter findings could find who the actor was that portrayed it, because, oh my, I feel for him, because I mean, it could have been years and years of appearances, especially even signing his figure,
Right.
But now, of course, sadly, that generation is starting to move on. But it would just be amazing to find out who that performer was, because my God, he really blew up. And of course, Favreau and Filoni with, the prop from it's just amazing with Star Wars. What a beautiful message that is, that there are no small parts or no small props either, because of the ice cream maker.
So Dietrich, you know what we're talking about, right? There's a character in Empire Strikes Back. When Lando Calrissian, he calls for the evacuation of Cloud City. Everybody's sort of scattering, and there's a background performer who's got an orange jumpsuit on, and he's running with a container. Now, fans have identified that container. It's an ice cream maker from the 80s, basically.
That one.
Yeah, so he's running through, and so the speculation was like, what? Like he's saving it as ice cream, and that was kind of the inside joke type thing. And in The Mandalorian in season 1, Favreau and Filoni, and the props department, genius. They made that ice cream maker into, they call it a Camtono, and they zhuzhed it up, and they made it all, it opened up, and it turns out it's a storage device for carrying precious materials like Beskar minerals or whatnot, and they really sort of made it all sexy and electronic, and the sides opened up and it lit up and everything. So that was the whole thing. But I think one of the biggest joys I get as well is, and I haven't seen this in person, but I've seen video footage of this at other cons. You have a number of people dressed up like Wilbur Hood, and they all have camped, and they're all running. They run in a huge line, and there's like 20 or 30 of them all cosplaying as the same dude.
Try 70. I've been a Wilbur Hood in a run with 70 of us at one of the celebrations. It was glorious.
That's amazing.
It was a sea of orange.
Wow. Talk about a flash mob. That's great.
And that's the power. Dominic, you're absolutely right. That is the power of fandom. That is, when the community identifies something and wants to have fun with it and they go with it, it's great. We're gonna be seeing different version of Admiral Green Jeans with the watch. I've seen people cosplay as that now, right? In season 2 of The Mandalorian, somebody caught a screen grab in the background of one of the gun battles. There's a crew member who's partially obscured, and all you can see is he's got jeans, a green shirt, and you can see their watch. And people are cosplaying as that individual now because they're canon. Which is hilarious. So, and
there's a pink booty shorts guy who actually is one of the crew members who was a boom operator in these really tiny pink shorts. And no shirt. And there's a group of fans who go around dressing up like him and walking around the convention. Plus, there's also the Matt the Radar Technicians, who I'm also a proud member of, who do when Adam Driver was playing Kylo Ren on Undercover Boss on Saturday Night Live. One of my favorite Saturday Night Live episodes ever. So
it's so good. The fandom is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, we're down to about 5 minutes left. Any last characters you want to give a shout out to before we close?
Just hopefully we have more yak faces and Amonamons. I thought that was so special in 1985, where, again, just sort of a tribute to side characters in terms of how special they are. And that, you have the most limited screen. Amonamon, I think it was like literally behind everybody when Jabba reveals that he's there, when Boushh is going to save Han. And I just ended up buying it loose for $450. So hopefully there'll be more of that, and still the passion as the universe continues to expand for that passion and interest within the fan base to want to know more about those characters.
Anyone else? Characters you want to give a shout out to?
I'm going to give a shout out to all of the fans. And though I'm the least well versed in this universe, I know and feel how strong the fandom is and how much fun everyone has with it and exploring it and getting excited about it. And just dipping my toe into the universe in the little way that I have has opened this door and introduced me to this wonderful community who have been kind and sweet and encouraging. And so I just want to give a big thank you. These panels like this don't exist. Our jobs don't exist without this huge universe of fans. And so I say a big thank you.
Dietrich said what I wanted to say, basically. Bravo. But I'll go one step, and I'll also say, a big shout out to all the character performers who put on the latex and the masks and all the different outfits and never get the credit for it. A few do, and rightfully so. but that's a tough job when you have to put on that and it totally obscures you, and you are persona non grata. You are that character. You're a Rhodian, or you're an Ugnaught, or you are any number of different species that are there, but you have a performer underneath there, and they're the ones that actually help bring these characters to life. The Frog Ladies. I know Misty Rosas she's a fantastic actor, and she's getting due recognition, which is fantastic, and she's a wonderful human being too. But for all the actors out there who specialize in playing these character actors, huge shout out to them, because under very arduous circumstances at times, they're under there and it's hot and it can be uncomfortable and they can't see and they can't really hear, but they bring life to these characters that really feed the fans' imaginations and really sort of bring to life these worlds and populate them and make them more rich and diverse in their own way. So like, hats off to them.
Well, thank you so much, all of you, for participating in this panel. It has been a lot of fun, no exaggeration there. Again, all of our viewers, please consider donating to Make-A-Wish Foundation. This program today is here to give support to all those children who need those special wishes and dreams at this difficult time of their lives.
So nice meeting you. Hope I can meet you at one of the conventions of Celebration.
I would
And
love that very
Dietrich
much
as well. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Take
Thanks,
care, Dominic.
everyone. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Inferno.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Dietrich.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Great questions, and thank you, Inferno Squadron.